Welcome, everybody. Good morning. My name is Marty Mascari, and I am with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging and the Aging and Disability Resource Center. And I know after I just talked about my spelling, they probably don't want to claim me, but I'm a contractor with them. So we're here today to talk about short-term Medicaid and how scammers get your information. We're blessed to have Melinda Gardner and Cathy Stump, both from the Area Agency on Aging, and Diane, and it's new. Nguyen. I can never get that right. I knew I had it. Diane Nguyen from the Better Business Bureau Education Foundation out of Houston to talk to us today. But before we get started, if we could advance the slide, we're going to talk a little bit about CEUs.
And advancing the slide.
There we go. So today's, we're offering CEUs today for social workers and licensed professional counselors in the state of Texas. And we're also offering certificates of attendance. The rules for both of them are the same. You're eligible for 1.5 classroom hours. You must attend the entire webinar. We don't do partial CEUs for partial attendance. You must complete the Google survey. And today you're going to see there's 2 surveys, but you've got to complete ours. The Better Business Bureau is going to ask you to complete one as well for their funding sources, but I have to have this one for our evaluation, but we need it for our funding sources too. So even if you aren't getting a CEU or a certificate of attendance, please fill out the surveys. Both of them, please. So you got to complete the survey. Please use the name and the email address that you want. The name you want on the certificate, the email address you want the certificate to go to when you do the survey, because that's what we'll use on the survey. The survey link should pop up as soon as you close out today. The survey will be up and live for 1 week. If it doesn't pop up, I know some of your companies have pop-up blockers, then it will also be sent out as an attachment to, or a link in an email, a follow-up email that should go out later today. I want you to note the certificates, it's going to be 2 weeks after that closes till we get the certificates out. I am traveling next week, and so I have moved it back till I get back into town to get those certificates to you. And that's something that's really difficult for me to do on the road. So, so give us until the 9th of May to get these certificates to you. So Melinda, I'm gonna let you advance and I'm gonna let you introduce Cathy and we'll get rolling.
All right, thank you very much, Marty. And I do want to introduce our first speaker, Cathy Stump, who is going to talk about long-term care Medicaid. She is a case manager supervisor at the North Central Texas Council of Governments Area Agency on Aging. And Cathy has worked for the Department of Aging and Disability Services and the Health and Human Services Commission as a supervisor in the Program Support Unit. This unit handles the STAR+ waiver program. She has extensive experience in Department of Aging and Disability Services programs, as well as the STAR+ waiver program and Medicaid managed care. Now, I do have to say, even though we're presenting long-term care Medicaid and how do scammers get my information, the two are not joined together. We just happen to be doing these 2 topics, but it is important to note when someone is applying for programs to make sure they're aware of who they're providing their information to. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Cathy Stump, who is going to be our first presenter.
Thank you, Melinda. Good morning, everybody. Like Melinda said, I'm Cathy Stump. So we're going to be discussing an overview of Medicaid benefits. So I titled this From Home to Care Facilities. So we're going to talk about the different types of Medicaid, because in case you weren't aware, Texas has many different types of Medicaid. So when someone says they're either applying for Medicaid or they're on Medicaid, we need to know what type of Medicaid they're on or what type of Medicaid they're applying for. And so this presentation was kind of designed to help us figure that out. Either if you're applying for Medicaid, you know, which one you need, or if you're on Medicaid, which program you're on, that kind of stuff. So the different types of Medicaid, so there's Medicaid that covers Medicare Savings Programs. There's Medicaid that covers long-term care services in the home. There's Medicaids that cover long-term care in the facility. There's also Medicaids that cover children and refugees and things like that. I don't get into that kind of stuff because unfortunately that is not my area of expertise. So we're just going to be covering these types of Medicaid today. So there is a very big difference between full Medicaid and partial Medicaid. So full Medicaid is access to all benefits of Medicaid, including medical, transportation, prescription assistance. So the programs that are considered full Medicaid benefits here in the state of Texas are Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, which is a federal Medicaid program, STAR+, STAR+ Waiver, Nursing Facility, Home and Community Services Waiver, Texas Home Living Waiver, Community Living Assistance and Support Services Waiver. Then there's the partial Medicaid programs, which is access to a limited benefit, which is such as help with Medicare premiums or in-home services. And the main ones are qualified Medicare beneficiary, specified low-income Medicare beneficiary, qualifying individual, and community attendant services. Now, there are others, but these are the ones we're going to really be discussing and diving into today. So Medicare Savings Programs, also known as MSPs, or partial Medicaid programs. So these programs pay for one particular thing. So for qualified Medicare beneficiary, or QMB, in case you guys weren't aware, the state loves their acronyms. So most of these programs have an acronym, but I'm trying to use the full name of that, but you will most likely hear it as QMB or whatever the acronym for that program is. So qualified Medicare beneficiary, or QMB, must have or be eligible for Medicare Part A. They can be on SSI, that's Supplemental Security Income, and or other Medicaid programs. And this program pays all Medicare premiums, deductibles, and copays. Specified Low-Income Medicare Beneficiary, or SLMB, the individual must have or be eligible for Medicare Part A. They can be on SSI, that's Supplemental Security Income, and or other Medicaid programs. And this program pays Part B premium only. So that's the main difference is QMB pays that Medicare premium, deductible copay. SLMB pays Part B premium only. Qualifying Income Program, also known as QI1, the individual must have or be eligible for Medicare Part A. It pays that Part B premium only, and the individual cannot be on SSI, or Supplemental Security Income, or any other Medicaid programs. They must reapply for this program yearly. Qualifying Disabled Working Individual, or QDWI, it pays that Medicare Part A premium. This is for individuals who are a working disabled person under the age of 65, and they must have lost their premium-free Part A when they return to work, and they cannot be receiving any other state medical services. So here is the income limits and resource limits for these particular programs. As you can see with QMB, the income limit is a lot lower than the other programs. It's $1,074 per month for an individual, but the resource limit is pretty high for a lot of these Medicaid in comparison to other Medicaid programs. It's at $8,400 for a resource limit. So I'm not going to bore you with the details on all of those, but you can see the income limits are very low for these Medicare savings programs. All right. So when we're talking about in-home services, because that's kind of what we do at for my program at Area Agency on Aging, and that's what I did at the state as well, was in-home services. So we need to talk about what types of in-home care there are. So there's two different types. There's skilled services, where an individual the services must be provided by a licensed professional, and that includes nursing care, physical, occupational, and speech therapies. There's non-skilled or custodial care. So this can be provided by someone without a license, and this includes housekeeping, chore services, and assistance with activities of daily living. Activities of daily living include bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting, and meal preparation. So the different types of programs that Medicaid has that cover in-home care is the Community Attendant Services Program, Primary Home Care, STAR+, STAR+ Waiver, CLASS, which is an Intellectual Developmental Disability Waiver, HCS, and Texas Home Living, which both of those are also Intellectual Developmental Disability Waivers, also known as IDD. All right, so the income and resource limits, as you can see, the income limits are much, much higher than they were for QMB and those Medicare Savings Programs. So we want to look at the CAS waiver institutional individual Medicaid income limit, which is $2,523. So if an individual makes less than $2,523 per month, they are potentially financially eligible income-wise for community attendant services and all those waiver programs in the nursing facility. The resource limit for these programs are slightly lower. For community attendant services, waiver, and nursing facility, the income limits is $2,000 for an individual or $3,000 for a couple. When you're looking at Title 20 services, those are state particular services. So the state of Texas does have a few programs that provide in-home assistance. Those are not Medicaid funded. So the resource limit is different, but the income limit is the same. And the difference between income and resource limits. So income is what a person is receiving, either Social Security, retirement benefits, an IRA, 401k, any income that they have coming in. A resource is something that they have like cash in the bank or that they can cash in. So resources can include life insurance policies that have a cash value, burial policies that have a cash value, homes, as long as they only own one home, they don't, it's not counted. And they can own one vehicle, it's not counted as a resource. We get that question a lot, but it's what Medicaid has deemed a resource, or what, in essence, anything that has a cash value. All right, so Community Attendant Services, or CAS. So what is that? So this program is a Medicaid program, and again, this is a partial Medicaid program. So this type of Medicaid, if the person is eligible for it, it only pays for this program. They don't receive any other benefits of Medicaid. So they don't get the medical, they don't get prescription, they don't get transportation. They only get these services. So this provides non-technical, non-skilled in-home attendant care services. There are no age restrictions, so the person can be, 0 to, 105 or whatever the case is. They must be functionally limited in performing at least one personal care task. Personal care tasks include bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting. They must have a practitioner's statement of medical need. They must have an unmet need for home management or personal care. Their income and resources may not exceed specified limits, which we just went over. It's $2,523 income for an individual or $2,000 in resources for an individual. And they must not be eligible for full Medicaid benefits. If they are eligible for full Medicaid benefits, they're going to be on one of the other programs. So what does Community Attendant Services provide? Escorting a person to medical appointments for diagnosis and or treatment. It's We have to note that the person providing the care cannot drive the person. They can only escort. It provides home management to help with housekeeping activities and personal care related to the care of the person's physical health. Again, that bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting. So how do you apply for CAS? Well, if you're in the North Central Texas area, you're going to contact your local Health and Human Services office. This is the 888 number that I have listed here. This is for the North Central Texas area. Each area of Texas has their own local Health and Human Services office. You can always Google it. If you're not in the North Central Texas area, you can call your local area agency on aging, and they can certainly give you the information about the different programs as well. Or you can call your local Aging and Disability Resource Center. For community attendant services, it's important to note that there is no waiting list for this program. I saw that question pop up in the chat. CAS, Community Attendant Services, is not a full Medicaid program, so there is no copay. If they are over income for the program, then they don't qualify. And we'll get into that a little bit later when we talk about the full Medicaid programs. All right. I just saw another question pop up. CAS is on hold in the Temple area. I can't tell you about other areas. I can only tell you about North Central Texas because that's where I have the most area. That's my area. So if they told you it's on hold, then unfortunately it may be on hold just because they're so busy with it. All right, so primary home care. So primary home care is almost exactly like community attendant services. The only difference is the individual must be eligible for full Medicaid. So the individual has to be on either SSI, Supplemental Security Income, or one of those full Medicaid program waiver programs. All right, so again, primary home care is almost exactly like community attendant. It provides escorting services, home management, that light housekeeping, and then personal care tasks such as assistance with activities of daily living, bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting. If you are in the North Central Texas area, if you need to apply for primary home care, you can contact your local Health and Human Services office. If the individual is enrolled in managed care, you need to contact your managed care organization to get those services started. In this area, we have AmeriGroup. I believe we don't have Cigna Health Springs anymore, but I need to check. Molina and Superior. And I think we have United that covers one or two of our counties on the upper portion. All right, so community living assistance and support services, also known as CLASS. This is a waiver program for people with intellectual disabilities or related conditions. So this particular one, the intellectual developmental disability, has to have originated before the age of 22, and it affects the ability to function in daily life. So this is a very particular program. They have to meet the level of care criteria for placement in an intermediate care facility. It's different than a nursing facility. They have to have a need for habilitation case management services. They need to live in their own home or a family member's home, and the income and resources may not exceed the specified limits. Again, that's $2,523 for an individual, and with a resource limit of $2,000. And they cannot be enrolled in any other waiver program. So what kind of services can you get if you are on CLASS? You can get adaptive aids. Typically those are walkers, wheelchairs, canes, things like that. Medical supplies, that includes diabetic supplies, incontinence supplies, nutritional supplements, behavioral support, case management, cognitive rehabilitation therapy, dental assistance, employment assistance, habilitation, minor home modifications. Generally, those are for safety. They can be walk-in showers, wheelchair ramps, grab bars, things like that. You can get nursing services, occupational speech, physical therapy, family services, pre-vocational habilitation, supported employment services, support family services, and transition assistance services if you are coming from a nursing facility. So how do you apply for class? So this is actually a statewide number. So you would call this phone number. Be prepared to provide Social Security and Medicaid number if the person has Medicaid, the type of disability, age of onset of the disability, the person's date of birth, address, phone number. It is on a waiting list. It's pretty extensive. The last I heard, it was around like 10 to 12 years. So it's not a quick program to get onto by any means. Home and community-based services. Again, this is another waiver program that provides the full Medicaid for individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities. So they have to be living in a community setting, either family or their own home or another community setting. The service coordination is provided by the local authority. They can be of any age. They have to qualify for care in an intermediate care facility, which again is different than a nursing facility. This particular program, they must have a determination of intellectual disability in accordance with state law, or have a diagnosis of a related condition with an IQ of 75 or below. They cannot be enrolled in any other waiver program. And the income and resources have to be less than 2,523 and less than 2,000 for resources. All right, so it provides pretty similar services to class: adaptive aids, audiology, behavioral support, cognitive rehabilitation therapy, day habilitation, dietary services, dental treatment, employment assistance, minor home modifications, nursing, physical occupational speech therapies, residential assistance, transition assistance if they are in the nursing facility. So how do you apply for HCS? So if you are in the North Central Texas area, these are the local intellectual developmental authorities. If you are not in the North Central Texas area, then you will need to Google your local intellectual developmental authorities so you can find out how to apply for those. Texas Home Living, very, very similar to HCS. So it's, again, a full Medicaid waiver program that provides essential services and supports to people with an intellectual disability or a related condition. There's no age limit. Obviously, they have to be determined eligible for Medicaid. They have to meet a specified functional criteria, including having a determination of an intellectual disability, or having been diagnosed by a physician as having a related condition with an IQ of 75 or below. They have to live in their own home or family's home, and they cannot be enrolled in any other Medicaid waiver programs. So Texas Home Living Services, again, very similar to HCS and class: adaptive aids, audiology, behavioral support, community support, dental, employment assistance, home modifications, nursing services, occupational speech, and physical therapies. So how do you apply for Texas Home Living? It is just like HCS. You have to contact your local intellectual developmental disability authority. So these are the local ones for the North Central Texas area. If you are not in the North Central Texas area, just Google your county intellectual developmental disability authority. All right, STAR+. So STAR+ is a Medicaid program administered by Texas Health and Human Services. It provides services through managed care. It is a full Medicaid program, meaning the individual has to be on Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, or approved for full Medicaid benefits. For STAR+, the individual must be 21 and older. If they are under 21, they are enrolled in the children's waiver programs.
All right, what happened?
Did it get stuck? I broke it. I'm sorry.
You broke it. You broke it. Okay, are you able to see it?
There we go. Yeah. And
Okay.
Tammy, I saw your question, is DADS included in this training? So there is no such thing as DADS anymore. What used to be called Department of Aging and Disability Services is now Health and Human Services Commission. They may decide to change their name again. They're kind of like Prince. They change their name quite frequently. But Health and Human Services is the overall umbrella programs. So DADS, if you're talking about Department of Aging and Disability, is now Health and Human Services, and all of these programs are under the Health and Human Services umbrella. All right, so STAR+PLUS Services, they provide personal care services, or also known as primary home care, or similar to what community attendant services would be, that assistance with activities of daily living and light housekeeping, or day activity health services, also known as adult daycare. So that's what's included under STAR+. They also get all the full Medicaid benefits because it is a full Medicaid program. So STAR+ waiver. So this is different than STAR+. STAR+ waiver is a waiver program that's administered by Health and Human Services. Its services are provided by the managed care organization. Individual must be 21 or older. The individual must be on SSI, Supplemental Security Income, or approved for full Medicaid benefits. And the individual must meet the nursing facility level of care. This does not mean they have to be in the nursing facility. They just have to meet the nursing facility level of care. They have to have a medical necessity for this particular program. So what does STAR+ waiver services provide? Well, it provides that personal assistance services, that assistance in the home with personal care services, activities of daily living, light housekeeping, adaptive aids. It'll pay for adult foster care home services. It'll pay for assisted living. It'll pay for day activity health services. That's that adult daycare. Dental services, emergency response services. That's that life alert button, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. Home delivered meals, medical supplies, again, diabetic supplies, incontinence supplies, nutritional supplements, minor home modifications, walk-in showers, grab bars, ramps, nursing services, respite care if they have a caregiver, and then therapies, speech, occupational, and physical therapy, and then it provides transition assistance services if the person is in the nursing facility wanting to move into the community. So how do you apply for STAR+ waiver? Well, you can contact your local Health and Human Services office. Again, if you're in the North Central Texas area, it is this 888-337-6377 to be placed on the waiting list if you are not enrolled in managed care. If you are enrolled in managed care, you need to contact your managed care organization and request to be upgraded from STAR+ to STAR+ waiver. All right, so nursing facility care. No, so now we're talking, so we've moved on from all the services in the home and the community to what do you do when you need more extensive assistance? So we're talking nursing facility. This provides individuals with 24-hour care or someone who needs an extensive amount of assistance and cannot safely live in their home. This offers the highest level of care. To apply for Medicaid, nursing facility Medicaid, they have to be living in a nursing facility for 30 consecutive days. They also have to meet that nursing facility level of care, that medical necessity. And again, with any of these waiver programs and nursing facility, the income limit is $2,523 for an individual, $2,000 in resources for an individual. All right, so what if the individual is over the income limits for Medicaid? Well, there's what's called a qualifying income trust, or QIT. It used to be called a Miller's Trust. Sometimes you'll still hear people refer to it as that, but it's also known as a qualified income trust. This allows individuals to legally divert their income into a trust. The income is no longer counted for Medicaid eligibility purposes. The income that was diverted is then used for the cost of care, also known as a copayment. It does not affect resource limits. So if you're over resources, unfortunately, you can't put that into a qualifying income trust. So this can help an individual qualify for nursing facility, STAR+ waiver, or the other waiver programs if they are over income. It does not affect community attendant services because, again, that is not a full Medicaid program, so they cannot apply a qualified income trust to that. All qualifying income trusts must be completed by an attorney. And if you have questions about the qualifying income trust, I would refer you to an attorney to answer those questions.
All right. Cathy, thank you very much for this important information. I mean, it is so confusing, and I know there are a lot of questions. I know you have a scheduling conflict, so if we're not able to get to all the questions before Cathy leaves, we will definitely get those together and sent out to you. If you do want to reach her, we are both at the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging, and you can call the toll-free number and just ask for Cathy Stump. She is the supervisor of the case management program, and so there are others that are able to assist you as well. I do also want to note that the QIT that Cathy just talked about, the Benefits Counseling Program is able to assist with that QIT. We do have a partnership with the Texas Legal Services Center. If they have that time to assist us, then we can actually provide them with the information and they will help with getting that QIT going. So just a little tidbit. Also, we do have temporary services through the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging for care coordination in the home. If someone does not have some of those programs that Cathy talked about, then they may qualify for our temporary program. And so if you want more information on that, I would suggest contacting us so that we can see how we can assist you if you are in the North Central Texas area. All right, again, thank you, Cathy, for that. And now we will have Nguyen from the Better Business Bureau Education Foundation talking to us about how do they get our information. And I will turn it over to, I think I can turn it over to you. Do you want me to continue to do the PowerPoint?
I think it would be better if I was able to do it because this one has a lot of clicking.
Okay. All right. All right. And I think you have it.
My name is Diane Nguyen, and I'm with the Better Business Bureau Education Foundation. I'm the director of the Texas Senior Medicare Patrol here, which I will get into in a little bit. Patrol. It's a federally funded program, and there's one in every state in the US. And the main purpose of the Senior Medicare Patrol is to recruit, train volunteers and professionals about Medicare fraud and abuse. And here in our office, we have a hotline, which the number will be at the end, but we report intentional fraud and abuse to Medicare fraud control units, which could be Medicare, the Attorney General, the Office of Inspector General, just whoever, you know, depending on the case where it needs to go, depending on the type of fraud. Okay, oops. Okay. Right, the PowerPoint is just kind of, okay, so we're going to be talking about how these scammers actually get your information. So here's some of the technology that scammers use. So the first are the auto dialers. So what this is it's a computer software that a lot of these scammers, they don't actually use, real phones to call us. They actually use internet phones. And so what these auto dialers do is they just, dial a bunch of numbers at once. And basically, as soon as somebody picks up, then they connect that person to the scammer. So it saves the scammers a lot of time since the computer just dials a bunch of numbers at once. And once a real person picks up and the technology detects either a voice or maybe they push a button, it'll connect them to the scammer on the other side of the phone. Thanks. So a lot of these scammers don't work alone. They actually, are in a room with other scammers doing this, all at once. So it's usually not a one-man operation. A lot of the times they're in a room with other people and it's kind of very organized. And robocalls. I'm sure a lot of us have had phone calls where we pick up and it's a robot that's talking to us or, an automatic message. A lot of the times what they do is the robocalls save them a lot of time. So when you pick up and you push 1 or 2 or whatever the robocall says, it tells them that your phone number is real. And so, instead of having the scammers talk to a bunch of people, it's these robocalls, and eventually the scammers will call again later because they know your phone number is real. Spoofing. This is when they change what the caller ID says on your phone. So actually, when you pick up, sometimes it'll say things like, the IRS, or it'll say Social Security, but it's really the scammer changing what your caller ID says. This is really cheap technology for them, and it's definitely illegal, but it makes it so that you're more likely to pick up when a scammer calls. I've actually gotten some calls from, consumers that they've actually been getting their doctor, their actual doctor office. So the scammers have figured out, who their doctor is and spoofing their doctor's office. And then malware, which is computer viruses. Here are the ways that, the scammers are going to get our information, and we're going to go through this one by one. The first one, which is also the biggest one, is the internet. So has anybody ever searched themselves up online? You would actually be surprised about the kind of information that is out there. So when I look up my name, Diane Nguyen, it's actually a name of a character from a cartoon. So if you look it up, luckily you won't find me, you'll just find the cartoon character. But I looked up my phone number and like my cell phone number, and it's actually attached to my dad's name. So if you looked it up, it actually comes up his name and an old address that we used to have. So if you've never searched yourself up online, I would highly recommend it just to see what's out there. You can also search up your email addresses and then your phone numbers and see what comes up. So a lot of information that is on the internet is just public record. So criminal records are all online, property ownership. A lot of the time, after we buy property, we'll get all this, kind of spam mail about insurance and stuff that people are trying to sell us because, the change of property, that's on the internet. So there's a lot of companies that kind of just look around the internet for when people buy properties, and then they'll send them stuff in the mail. Vehicle registration, that's also public record. So a lot of the times after we buy a vehicle, we'll get a lot of scam calls about your warranty or expiring or buying new warranties for your car. And then any kind of licensing like marriage or voter registration, that's also on the internet. So a lot of the times, if you get a call about, people trying to get you to spend money on a candidate, a lot of the time they get your information from voter registration. And if you're registered to a certain party, that's also public record. And like I mentioned earlier, phone numbers, addresses, emails, they can all be searched on the internet. And I would, like I said, highly recommend just seeing what is out there about you on the internet. We're going to talk about phishing emails. So you might get an email that looks like it's from a friend with a generic subject and attachments, but be really careful. The email is probably not from someone you know, and the attachment could actually be a virus when you download it to your computer. A lot of these hackers, they can actually hack into people's emails and send like a message to pretty much everybody on their contact list. That's why sometimes if you see an email that's actually from your, from someone you know, but it seems really suspicious, it's probably not from them. Or it might not even be from someone you know. It might say something like Social Security, Medicare, because people can make fake email addresses that look kind of legitimate, and they can make links that look like they're from actually Social Security. The web page might look exactly like it, but it's actually, fraudulent. And so when you put your personal information into it, then the scammer will have your information. So I would be very careful about emails. What could happen is, there's spam that looks legitimate and has an unsubscribe button, but when you click on it and enter your email address, you're putting yourself on a list to that may be sold to other scammers, and then you'll get a lot more spam emails. Another trick is sometimes they'll send you emails that look like from UPS or FedEx saying, you have a failed delivery, you must click for information. To be safe, never click on any links on any emails until you have verified the validity of the source. So usually when I get an email and it has a link to something, let's say Amazon, and there's a link, I wouldn't click on the link. I would just go into another web browser and I would type in www.amazon.com. So if you get emails saying something's wrong with your account on anything, I wouldn't click on any links. I would just go into the actual website myself and then check to see if there's actually anything wrong, because it'll show up on your account in the website. Because a lot of the times the scammers know that, people are worried about their accounts. So then they send out fake emails like this that will either download a virus, which it could include malware, or spyware, which they watch your keystrokes. So they watch you type things. And then when you put in your password into something, then it'll, they'll have your password. They'll just, put a virus on your computer and then freeze up your computer. And they might threaten you. But just to be safe, if you get any emails that seem suspicious or saying something's wrong with any of your accounts, and if there's a callback number, don't call back that number. Don't click on any links. Just go to the website directly or find the customer service number on your own. The next thing I'm going to be talking about are phone calls. So we talked a little bit about spoofing earlier, where they can change your caller ID. The reason they do this is because they know we are more likely to pick up the phone if it's a number familiar to us. So a lot of the times they'll pick the same area code as your phone number. That way, we're more likely to pick up if it's the same area code. So my work phone has a lot of spam calls, and they're usually from numbers that are the same area code. So it's 713. And one time it even showed up as Better Business Bureau Houston. And I thought that was really weird, but I picked it up anyway. But it was a scam call. They literally spoofed the number of my office. And so the goal of the scammer is to get you to stay on the phone as long as they can. The more you talk to them, the more information they can obtain. A lot of the times too, the longer you stay on the phone with them, they're gonna keep calling you again over and over and over. Even if you don't really give them information and you're like, oh, I'm just wasting the scammer's time. Actually, well, you are wasting your time too. And the more you talk to them on the phone, they're gonna pull more information and you're actually gonna get more calls. Calls. I mentioned this earlier, and fun fact, I guess not so fun fact, it's been estimated that over 51 billion robocalls were made in 2021. That is a lot of calls because nobody actually has to be on the phone. They just send out, they just click a button and then there's billions of calls that were made. So a lot of the times these robocalls will say, press 1 for more information, press 2 to get off the list. A lot of the times we get these calls, we're like, oh, let me press 2 so they can stop calling me. Can they get information from a voicemail? Not typically. They really, the technology is looking for somebody, like a person that, that will trigger, for them to know that your phone number is real. I'm not quite sure. So unfortunately, no, there's not a real way to get the real number instead of spoofing, because they're all internet phone calls. We don't really have the technology that can actually see who the real number is. Numbers, but it's really hard to block certain numbers because they are spoofed. There are certain ways to, I actually have a handout that I can actually email later to email that will show you some ways that you can try to block some of these calls. But a lot of the times the best way to get them to stop calling you is to stop picking up, because eventually they'll think that this number is not good. So the best way is to don't pick up any numbers you don't recognize. I had a man at a senior center that actually stopped picking up his phone for 6 months, and he said it got better that way. But a lot of the times, if you do pick up and it's a robocall and it tells you to push 1 or 2, don't push any buttons, because you're not going to be taking off the list or anything. You're not going to be taken off a list. You're going to actually tell the scammer that this number is real. So if you get a robocall that says push 1 or 2, it's actually, them tricking you. Looks like we can't hear the sound of this video. So, but it just basically talks about robocalls. It talks about what I talked about earlier about robocalls, and the FTC can't really stop these calls, and they're just scammers basically that automated calls, and then to see which numbers are good or not. Okay, so this is another way scammers can actually get your information, and I know a lot of it seems really innocent. When you see like internet quizzes or mall surveys, some satisfaction surveys for like products and stuff. Scammers can actually use this information to learn a lot about us. Of a fake survey that was actually sent into one of our emails. So it looks like it's from Pfizer. It says it's the vaccine survey. They offer free rewards, and you're free to take the survey, and they'll give you valuable consumer data. Well, if you clicked on the survey, it took you to a webpage where you would put your personal information. Unfortunately, this was a scam. If you looked at the email address, it was from something called this Hotmail, which Pfizer's definitely not sending you anything from Hotmail. So this was a scam. So not all surveys are going to be scams, but if you see anything, so a lot of this is actually online, but if you do take surveys in person too, this also, a lot of it is just marketing. A lot of it, they want marketing data, but there's one big example is Facebook surveys. So a lot of the times when you see like, take this color personality quiz, and you just take it because you think it's really fun, but really they're just slowly collecting information about us, like things like our favorite color, things like that can actually be security questions, So we want to be careful about taking random surveys online that ask for personal information, like our names, our, date of birth, our birthdays, which is what I just said, our, just things about us, our email addresses, our phone numbers. So usually I think if a survey is anonymous, it's pretty much, safe to take, because if you don't put any personal information about you, then, and they don't have any information about you. A lot of the times too, at the mall, when you can get a car, you can, enter the survey to win a car. Those aren't, you're not going to win the car probably. They're just collecting information about us. Even if they're not all scammers, a lot of these are marketing things and they just want to collect our information. But sometimes they are scammers and they're not legitimate. So I would just be very careful about taking, random surveys all the time, especially if, they're wanting you to input personal information. And sweepstakes work the same way as surveys. So a lot of the times when you want to enter to win something, the goal of them is not to, whoever you're doing the sweepstakes for, is not really to give away whatever item. It's just so they can collect their information. And yes, they do end up giving it to somebody. But for the most part, the goal of whatever company is just to get, information about us for marketing purposes. Social media, this is a really big one. There is a ton of information on social media. So what we personally post, so what we put out online for our friends and maybe the public to see. When you make an account on any social media, there needs to be some base information that we provide them. Our name, our phone number, our email address, and our likes and preferences. If you use Facebook, Facebook knows a lot about us, like a lot of information. So there was a way you could see, what Facebook thought about you. I did this one time. I don't exactly remember how to do it anymore, but you could see what Facebook thinks about us. It can show you what it thinks you're, where you are politically. It can see your, what it thinks you'll like and what it thinks you dislike, which is, I think, crazy just by us using it. A lot of the times the information they collect about us, some websites may, sell our information, not necessarily, piece by piece, but basically like what their users are like. And maybe these websites don't sell our information, but there's going to be things like targeted ads. So I don't know if anybody's ever experienced, maybe you talk about something in real life and then maybe a little bit later you see an ad for it on your phone. Or this happens on the internet when you're, shopping online, and then you go to Facebook and suddenly the ad for whatever you were looking at pops up. And then there's also, hackers. This is out of our control. But people do, there are bad people online that try to get our information that way. And then other websites that request to connect to our social media. So a lot of the times if you, ever play games maybe, or maybe download an app on your phone and it gives you the option to connect to Facebook. And sometimes we'll do it because it's a lot easier than putting in all new information, but you have to look at what information is being shared with that app before you just accept everything. Because Facebook has a lot of information about us and we don't want all of these applications to also have that information. So I would be, look out for that kind of thing. Also, if you are on social media, I would recommend you put all your accounts on private because you don't want your information just to be out there for people. You don't want scammers to be able to look us up and then when they call us, know all this information about us and then use that against us. Like if, you post about your grandchild or something and then you get a call from your scammer and they happen to know that your grandchild calls you Gigi and then they pretend to be your grandchild saying Gigi. And, it's safer not to have, give them less access than it is to just have that information out there. I wouldn't friend anyone I don't know in real life on Facebook because you just never know. A lot of those accounts are fake and then you don't want them to have the information. So speaking of advertisements, online shopping, I would be very careful about charities as well. I would look it up on Charity Navigator, or you can call, your local BBB to help you look at charities before you donate to anything. Just because, a lot of scammers are So when you shop online, a lot of the times we have to put personal information online, like our name and our address, our credit card information. Make sure you look at the web address and make sure it's secure before you buy anything. So the way to do that is to look at the URL and it'll say HTTPS. The S means it's secure. So that means that other people can't just see what you're doing on that website. So if you're trying to buy something online and you see HTTP, but there's no S, that website isn't secure and I wouldn't buy something from that website and put your personal information in. So be very careful and make sure, I mentioned the targeted ads earlier. And then read the fine print before you buy anything. What information do they need and why? If you buy something online, make sure it's like the minimum amount of things that you have to put into that. They don't need to know everything about you if you're going to purchase something. And see if they're using your information somewhere else. See if the company is like selling information for marketing purposes. You know, this also happens in the real world. A lot of the times we have loyalty cards to companies. And the reason we do is because they're kind of getting our preferences. They're not necessarily using it for malicious purposes, but it's just something to be aware of, that they're using this information so that they can kind of sell better to other people. Breaches. So this is something that's completely out of our control. So, but it's something to be aware of so that, you know, we know that it happens. So there's a lot of hackers and millions of accounts have been hacked that have leaked things like names, addresses, emails, phone numbers, social security numbers, which is really scary because we have our information in tons of places that we have no control over. You know, like if any medical services, our information's there. Pretty much anything you have an account with online, you know, there's a possibility that something could happen to it and it's out of our control. So the reason I put this, even though it's not really in our control, is it's important to check your credit reports every year. You know, we get 3 free a year. I would recommend using them. Check your credit reports, check your, you know, your credit scores. I would check this periodically to make sure nothing's wrong. So that you could do that. And then if you see something suspicious, then you know, something happened. I am not familiar with VPNs, honestly, but I'm not talking about hacking within individuals for the most part, because hackers don't really care about individual people as much as they would a big company. The odds of, you know, one of us being hacked individually is a lot smaller than like a big company being hacked. But I think a VPN does help because it hides your location basically. So I guess it would help individuals, but you know, the kind of hacking that I'm talking about is more of, you know, bigger companies have a lot of our personal information. Talking about our social butterflies. This is also something that's not in our control. Sometimes people in our life just talk a lot to other people and it's usually not a big deal, but they may give away information about us unintentionally. Another way that, you know, people can get our information. Dark web. So this is, I'll have access to is very small part of the internet. Most of the internet is underneath the surface, and that's what this picture is. So the World Wide Web is just like an iceberg. You know, the little bit on top is what we are able to see. And then you get into the deep web, which is 90% of the internet, which has things like government resources, academic information, medical records, which makes sense why we don't have access to it, right? Because it's private information that is secure. Well, when you go even deeper into that, it's the dark web. And there's a lot of things on here that are, you know, illegal. There's stolen and illegal information. There's credit cards numbers on there that people have stolen. There's information, personal information on there that people buy. And sometimes this too is where people get information. So basically for this, I also recommend the same thing about checking your credit reports and checking, you know, making sure your finances, you know, periodically are where they're supposed to be, because you never know if your information's out there. Talking about postal mail. So scammers will also steal your mail to get your information. So be really careful about, you know, make sure you bring in your mail every day. Don't just leave it in the mailbox. If you're going on vacation, either have the post office hold your mail or have someone you trust bring in your mail for you. Because scammers will go around, and if they see mail stacked up, they know, you know, someone's on vacation. One, it tells them you're on vacation and your house is empty. And two, if they take your mail and there's something important in there, they may steal your information and steal your identity. Also, if you're going to mail out everything, I wouldn't put it in your mailbox with a little flag up, because that tells scammers, hey, there's something in here. So what I would do is take it straight to the post office. I've heard that even sometimes the, the boxes outside get broken into. So I would just take it directly to the post office. That's probably your best bet. And so that's the end of my presentation. So if you ever suspect there's any Medicare fraud, error, or abuse, that is our hotline that you can call, and you'll get a live person. You'll never get like an automatic or automated message. If it's after business hours, we'll get back to you, the next day, or if we're not, if we're already on the phone with someone else, but we'll get back to you within, within the next day, unless it's a weekend. But if you look at your Medicare summary notices and you see anything suspicious, call that hotline, or anything Medicare related. Feel free to call that hotline. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you. Oh, and I'm gonna put a survey into the chat box. It's anonymous, and it's just about if you liked the presentation. So.
I guess I need to turn on my, there's a question in the Q&A, if I could read it to you. When looking up my name in the internet, some of the sites with information about you enter your name and current email and phone to then block your information on their site. Would you trust this process? Would you trust entering all that in order to block your information? How's the best way to get your information off of a given website?
That this is referring to? I'm not really sure what this is referring to, honestly.
Well, I think she's saying that there was a website that she went to get her name off, and it was asking her to give them her information in order to get it off, which sounds, but I guess they wouldn't know how to get your information off if they didn't know what your information was. I mean, it's kind of a catch-22, I guess. But the question is that, would you trust them in doing that? And is there a good way that you know of to get your name off of sites?
I think it depends on the website, quite honestly. I'm not exactly sure what kind of website or I think it depends on what kind of, for example, what kind of website it is. Let's say, you have an account with them, that would make sense. If you have an account with someone and you don't want your account there anymore, it would make sense that you have to put in your information to delete an account. Or if, let's say, it's emails, let's say it's marketing emails, and it says you want to unsubscribe from something, and you click the unsubscribe button, and it tells you to put your email address and, that kind of thing. And it depends on the website, quite honestly, but the unsubscribe button, if it's for a legitimate website, it's usually, I trust it. If it's something I know I've subscribed to, and I know I want to take my name off, then I would trust that, because there's a law on like emails and stuff like that they have to have an unsubscribe process.
Yeah, I don't know if I would add any other information to those sites. If I'm Googling my name and there's sites that come up, because it may be going actually to another site. So like Diane was saying, if you have subscribed to something and you're on that particular site, then yes, you can unsubscribe. But I don't know if I would put my name in other sites at all, because you really don't know where it's going.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, she added some more on here, and I know what she's talking about. You go in there, if you Google your name, some of these sites have information that they've gleaned from everywhere else and put it together, but then they want you to give them the correct information in order to get the information off. And would you really trust them to do that? Yeah.
I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust it, honestly.
Because it could be just opening up another door. They may not use it anymore, but they may sell it to someone else.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was thinking too. The other thing is there a way to go about getting your name off those sites that are just grabbing and gleaning your information and giving selling it or giving it to people?
There's really not, because the information that they're getting is public record, it's on the internet. Like, it's on the internet. There's honestly, you know, nowadays there's no way to get off the internet because we're just all on there. There's just so much information. I wouldn't verify the information. I would just, you know, I wouldn't verify it. I don't know if there's a way to get it off. You know, I wouldn't, because they're just taking information, like little bits of public information from everywhere.
And maybe calling that company by.
Huh? Did we lose you? I may have lost both of you. Oh.
Sometimes I receive emails and it's not directly addressed to me. It has some crazy email address in it, and it has an option to unsubscribe. But if they don't have my original email, then they may not have my information. It was just kind of a broad email sent. But if you're seeing your name on websites, like Diane was saying, they could have just pulled it from another site, so they may not even truly have your information.
Yeah. And she,
good question.
And her question goes on to say the information was correct. She just didn't want it out there, but then they wanted her to give more information to get it off there. I would yeah. Or verify that, even let them know that it's good, that it's what they have is accurate, although that, you know.
Right. Because again, they may not actually have it, even though it's information that's correct. It may not be from their website. It could be from another website that's tied into them.
Someone put a link on here for monitorfirefox.com. Is a website that lets people know if there's been a data breach. Can look up companies too.
I haven't heard of that.
But that might be a one for
something
for Diane.
Check that out, and
the other
maybe
one
next month.
Did everyone get the survey Diane put in the chat? Please make sure you grab that link so you can complete that survey. These surveys are very important for our funding sources, y'all. And I know it takes a little bit of time, but you know, unfortunately, that's who pays us to put these on, and so we've got to feed them back information. So please take a few minutes and do that for us. We'd appreciate that greatly.
There are a couple questions in the chat. Somebody's asking difference between income limits versus resource limits. I think Cathy answered that one, saying that income basically is what individuals receive each month. Resources are something that would have a cash value, such as a savings account, life insurance. If somebody owns land or more than one home, those would be considered resources. Also, monies in a checking account could be considered a resource if it's continually carried over to the next month. I think she did answer those questions. STADs included. STAR+, different than the waiver. STAR+ versus STAR+ waiver. STAR+ waiver provides all of the Medicaid services, whereas STAR+ may only provide a limited number of services, such as the home care and day activity health services. So that's the difference. STAR+ is kind of like a partial Medicaid, whereas STAR+ waiver, it's full Medicaid. Is STAR+ waiver the program that pays family members for taking care of loved ones? STAR+ waiver could pay family members for taking care of loved ones. That's something to speak with Health and Human Services about, because it may not be available in all areas. So definitely checking with Health and Human Services. That's all the questions I see.
Did you get the Medicare Savings Program income limits going up? Did you get that one already? I'm sorry. Oh,
no, I didn't see that. The Medicare Savings Program limits.
Yeah, it's Tammy put it in there. Will the Medicare Savings Program limits increase? I'm sorry, income limits be more since Social Security went up? I have a different chart than what is on the training.
Yes, I think it did change at the end of March. And I think it went up maybe $10 or $11. So we can send that out to everyone. Marty, I can send that to you.
Yeah,
to send
great.
out with the follow-up.
I'll make a link to it. That would be great.
Okay.
And,
okay.
Somebody asked, Amy, I'm putting her survey link in again right now. It may have hold on. I wonder if that
I got it.
Everyone, I put it in there again for you.
Oh, okay, got it.
I see that I think what happened was when Diane put it in there, it was just to the host and the panelists. Sorry. I make that mistake all the time. So I just put it into everyone. There is the link for Diane's survey. My survey should pop up, like I said, as you close out. Both of the surveys, the links to both surveys will be in the follow-up email that I send out. So I will make sure that I have hers in there as well. Any other questions anybody has? Well, I think that we're gonna, unless you have something else. Do you have something else, Melinda?
No, I'm good.
Well,
Diane, you have anything else?
Yeah, I do not.
We're gonna give you all 10 minutes of your life back. Actually 11. Whoa. So you guys should be able to do great things today with 11 more minutes. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much, Melinda. I know Cathy, I don't see her still on, I don't know, but thank Cathy. Thank you, Diane. Thank you so very much. And we'll see you all this afternoon, and send people our way for the afternoon session, which will be the recording, but we'll also have live Q&A. Thank you all much. Y'all have a blessed day. Take care.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you all.